Right. It typically takes like 20 seconds for this thing to start, and you never know when you're online. So we might already be. Right. So hello everyone. Welcome to another INTEA breakfast. You might think that I'm alone here, but don't you worry. There are actually more people in this studio today than usual, and we will be talking about outsourcing and primarily outsourcing your headaches to people who deal with them professionally. And to have that conversation, I have a few people with me today. That's my usual partner in crime, Raivis.
Hi, everyone.
And we also have Renata today with us. I think it's our first breakfast where we have a guest. Is this correct?
Yeah, I think so. If you remember, we started right when the pandemic started. So yeah, we never invited guests. That was kind of prohibited, but now we can do that.
That's true. All right. So what prompted this topic, right? I remember we've been brainstorming about like what do we want to talk about? Are there any interesting things we want to tell? And I frankly can't remember.
Yeah, I think the idea came from the fact that in the last 1-2 years of our work with clients, we realized that more and more companies come to us with this headache of managing their LMS. We never had a strategy to do this kind of product or something. It was very much customer driven. So with time, we developed a learning technology consulting team, which is led by our colleague Renate, whom we invited today. And the idea was that that we should talk about it because this is something new. We haven't seen that anyone has talked about it really in the past, so we thought it's topical.
Right. Just for clarity, let's just. I want to introduce Renata properly first of all, and. I also wanted to outline briefly with regards to outsourcing, what do we really mean in terms of services that INTEA actually provides, right? Because there are a lot of things that we can mean by that, so probably you two can just explain this to our viewers. And by the way, speaking of viewers, hello again. What I wanted to say is that there's a chat window right there on YouTube, so please use that. Type a plus if you can hear us in general. And secondly, any questions that you might have, don't hesitate to just ask. We're monitoring this, so we'll try to make this as interactive as possible. Right. So yeah. Anyhow, so in terms of outsourcing, what does INTEA provide, and what is Renata's role in overseeing this? Although I know that your role is everything.
Yeah, Renata, tell us.
What do I do? Well, I mostly manage those outsourcing projects, and we just provide support. We deal with clients' problem in LMSs. There are two kinds of support. One is the one clients pre-book with us, and there are clients who say, hey, we need 4 hours of your time per week or per day. Just deal with our problems. We want to spend time somewhere else. And then there's this support we deal with, which is on demand. We get the ticket. Well, we have this one of a kind problem. Could you help us? So basically, those are the two main directions of LTC team, what we do in our everyday life.
Yeah. When it comes to learning management system support and outsourcing, I really mean the outsourcing part of it, why do you think companies, come to realize they need this kind of service?
Oh, well, I think that the learning department in companies is always understaffed. They're not only dealing with LMSs and the technical stuff, they also have to deal with creating learning, managing learning projects, dealing with SMEs, and there are so many problems on top of just dealing with the technical stuff. So on top of everything, you have to, do enrollments for 5 hours. who wants to do that? Like, is this money well spent? So
I have a silly question. What's enrollment?
Enrollment. So you have a list of 3,000 people, and you have a new course. And for some reason you don't have a user group which automates this process. So basically you take an Excel, you copy and paste the IDs, and then you enroll them in the LMS. So it's very, well, I wouldn't say mind-numbing, but the added like this bonus to it, it's not really big. And you can outsource that. You can give it to us. We do the enrollments based on the material you provided, and spend your 6 hours on your learning strategy or dealing with SMEs.
Yeah. And what I also notice in the project where I am involved, that actually learning and development departments, usually they have those big projects, you know, it's not on a daily basis. So basically for a normal person working in L&D, you know, admin side of an LMS is not a Facebook or Instagram you go in every day. So every time you have to perform these tasks, it's a little bit like you have to learn it again, especially if it's a complex enrollment or complex setup or complex program.
Definitely.
I see that also with myself. I mean, I do need to go into LMSs now and then. Actually, I did yesterday. And it's like, okay, where was it? No, it doesn't work like that. Okay, let me look into let me ask my colleague, let me look into the manual. So those 6 hours that, you know, a professional would spend, I mean, for me, it's a full day or maybe 2 days work, because I'm going back and forth. So in a sense, it's not only, you know, outsourcing something you don't want to do, or you don't like to do, or you don't need to do. It's also outsourcing something you're not very good at, to be honest, because it's not your daily job. Why should it be, right?
I have a question. So my question would be, if I'm a corporate customer and I'm thinking about outsourcing anything, and like let's say I do recognize myself in that situation where I'm spending 6 hours on something that's, first of all, very tedious, and second of all, I understand that somebody who's doing this every day will do this way faster, simply because they do it every day, right? And for me, that's like once a quarter thing, annoyingly. But how else do I identify things that are easy to outsource? Or if you want to attack this from another angle, then the question is, what are the typical things that people try to outsource outside of enrollments, which I know what they are now?
Okay, then I would say reports, monthly, quarterly, and it's a process you can define in a written form and brief somebody on it. So reports are something we do for the clients, and they actually come back to us, and they deal only with the results, maybe interpreting them, but we provide them with the results. And I think one of the main frustration in LMSs is that, hey, this report doesn't work, or LMS doesn't work because, well, it doesn't compile millions of Excels in one. And we can compile multiple Excels in one and give tie together the information for the client, so he or she can later present it to the board of directors how the training is doing.
Yeah, so I agree. Yeah, there is this part that, as you said, enrollments, reports, these are, let's say, periodical things you can define. Sometimes, as you know, clients come to us and they don't have a procedure. They rather see what kind of results they need, because they have to feed it into their own internal systems, and an LMS will never do it the way you like it, the way you need it. So these are those kind of things, the periodical, the standard kind of things. The other side, where I get more requests than probably Renate, is that clients come and say, we would like to build something like that. We would like to build a learning journey on this topic or in this area we would like to build, a category management academy in our LMS, or a retail academy, or some kind of other, sub portal or something. And at that point, what happens, two things coincide. One is, of course, the learning and development thing. The other is the capabilities of your learning management system. And most often, a customer that has a learning management system don't have those kind of experts inside that know all ins and outs. So it's very hard to build a very nice learning journey, because you can have ideas, but you don't know what your LMS is capable of. So those kind of, we can't call it an outsourcing, because it's not a kind of continuous thing. It's rather like a one-off, but in a sense it is kind of outsourcing to us this thinking and building and analyzing the LMS capabilities and experimenting. So because what often happens is that you want to build a very cool learning journey, but then the question is, how do I do that? And sometimes we even look at it from an angle, okay, let's do it outside an LMS, just because the way you want it, let's do it somewhere else.
Yeah, but that actually ties into content production at this point, right? So maybe we can touch on content production outsourcing, which is an entirely different thing, which was a little bit of my worry when I was kind of planning this breakfast, that there are two different outsourcing, right?
Yeah.
Processes. So one of them is processes, one of them is content. So when we were building a specific portal on, I remember we've done one on well-being, and stress management, stuff like that. So when we were doing that, is this more of a content production or just technical capability, helping out someone who doesn't remember how do I change background on this LMS because it's 15 menu items down or something?
I would say that it's kind of, the problem is that it's both content and it's LMS. And if we remember our last breakfast where we talked about, clients want their LMSs to be capable of doing at least something on the content creation side, not being just a library, so that you can build portals, you can build some interactions inside the LMS, or at least, have a blog post. You don't have to integrate anything, you just, put text and picture there. So what happens is when you want to build those kind of journeys or portals, it becomes a trade-off. From kind of trade-off or kind of, cooperation between content production and LMS, because what happens is the content people, whoever they are, internal or external, would say, we would like this to happen. The LMS person says, no, this cannot happen like that, but it can happen different way. Okay, then we have to change the scenario. So, it's kind of, it's an agile process, it's back and forth. So in that sense, very often what happens, therefore, is that we take on these projects, all together, because it's much easier for us internally to get all those competencies. And you have many examples where it kind of comes to the, it is kind of a LMS support, but then you have to attract so many different people from the team.
Sure, definitely, because now LMSs, it's not only uploading a thumbnail and and adding the text.
Yeah.
Now we can use HTML coding to add some kind of interesting design solutions. And we didn't know that until we started experimenting. And the design you can get now, it's really supports the content, and it's really visual pleasing, because many of our clients are really visual clients.
Yeah.
And they sometimes kind of love that design more than they love the content, which for some reason, mostly on time, little time on their side is what it is, but it's a really nice design. And it's not the best case scenario, but what I'm trying to say is that, just outsource also the design part. We have some requests where they have made everything on their side, and at least it looks great, but they need a certificate, and they need a nice looking certificate for that. So it's we build a PDF which is really great looking, and then we program it so it actually does generate the correct name when the course is finished. So I think that often people don't really realize that for this trivial thing as certificate, you also need programmer who programs in the when you finished and your name. And these are the small things you can outsource, because we have people in-house who does that on daily basis. And if you will go to your IT department, the client goes to their IT departments and try to explain their programmer, hey, I need a nice looking PDF. I could give you a design, but could you please program the name? And then they ask you the questions about what's the specifics, what's the specification of LMSs. And you really can save time just outsourcing that.
Frankly, I think that in some cases people come to us simply because we are way nicer than their typical IT department.
No, it's. I think that the niceness. I mean, it's not that their IT departments are not nice, but you come there with a very small thing that is very important for you. You know, it's like cooking a dish. You don't need 1 kilo of nutmeg to make the dish nice. You just need a little bit of nutmeg. You need like two lines of code for the certificate to work. You need 2 simple icons for the page to look better, or 1 nice background. And in a sense, this is what the LTC team are able to get, you know, because this is something that is, you know, people sitting in the next room in a smaller organization, and frankly, all of them, programmers, designers, script writers, and so on, they are all specialized in e-learning. So we don't have to explain, I think, so much to them. What do we actually need? Okay, I need a background. What kind of background? What? No, they know it's an LMS. Okay, so this is the specification. It kind of comes naturally. So I think it's just to have this learning journey, to have this nice experience, building it internally. You just have to involve so many stakeholders very often, and getting them on board and delivering what you need at the right time, you know, this week, because come on, it just takes an hour, but they don't have that hour.
Yeah.
So, or if you need that background, or you need that nice design, you have to go to your marketing department. They will send you to their agency, then the contractual issues, whom do we invoice, is it paid, is it not paid? So it becomes very cumbersome.
Yeah, definitely. And we also have a project right now ongoing where we made the course, and now it's like full cycle, and they need us to also support them on their LMS. So it's my favorite kind of projects, because I know where SCORMs are located. I know what's the story behind it. And later on, when I will get a user question about this course we made, I can reply it already, and they don't and they don't have to deal with the headache of asking their external agency somewhere, who doesn't manage the LMS, doesn't know the LMS requirements. So this full cycle, if you start at INTEA with production of courses and end with LMS support, is just perfect, because we are already informed.
My question, and this just shows how much I know about this side of internet business. So do we outsource the support to learners as well? So that, let's say, if my SCORM file is not loading, or I've completed this course and it doesn't show as, you know, doesn't register the completion. Typically, what do corporate users do? They email something like learninganddevelopment@company.com, or they can actually phone someone to, like, do companies even ask about a service like that, or they just we have smart users?
Mailbox support is part of what we do with some of the customers. I think especially the biggest ones, where you have, you know, tens of thousands of people. Even if 0.1% of them kind of users have a problem, you know, it's still kind of a lot of people.
Yeah.
So we do have that. Tell us.
Our LMS support doesn't really end with LMS. we have built trust and relationship, so we manage also our clients' mailboxes, LMS mailboxes, where we get password resets, questions about reports, questions about why my course is not working on iPad. Well, it wasn't built for an iPad, and stuff like that. And at first, yeah, sure, we can't reply to all of them, but with time and building relationships and learning together with the system, yeah, I would say that we have been doing that for 3 years already, I think, and we can answer from, I know, 150 messages we have in a day, maybe 2 or 3 are the ones we forward to the client saying that, hey, this is a very specific question, can you help us with? But we deal with 147 emails which we don't forward to them, and that's really, really time saving for them.
Yeah, which brings the cost of dealing with each email down to, I think, not even euros, cents probably. Yeah, because, and again, maybe not always in this case, because these are bigger companies, but the other aspect of the outsourcing is that you just, you know, by definition of outsourcing something, you have to finally create a process, a structure for this, you know,
Yeah.
and you know, it might be chaos right now, but by outsourcing it to somebody, you will have to structure it internally, externally, and put it all together so that it really works, right?
Definitely, you can't give us Excel which is missing information and
Yeah.
just really bad quality and expect that we will fill in the internal data for you. That's not gonna happen. We will do our best with the cases that are clearly understandable, but then we will also compile a nice list of things that, hey, row this and this is missing information. And
so it's kind of a bit of a stress test for your own internal processes. Yeah, when you try to outsource, you figure out where it's actually breaking down.
This reminds me actually of content production as well, because I always say that probably our biggest value that we bring to customers in producing content is actually getting them to sit down and think about the business goals, the content that they have and that they miss, where they are, where they want to get, and so on. And it's a little bit like psychotherapy, where we just ask the right questions and they look for answers, and in finding those answers they become better, not because we did something proactively, but because we kind of sat down with them and listened.
in a sense, yeah, in a sense you are right, yeah. And I think that one important aspect we have to discuss, of course, the cost, right? Because definitely when you outsource something, that comes at a cost. What we have found out, I think, in the last kind of during the COVID times, with all the recruitment freezes, and stuff like that, that has also become an answer to some of the problems in the learning and development departments, that they would need a kind of, you see that we are 3 people in L&D department, we need the 4th person, we're not able to recruit, but then looking at what these 3 people are doing now, you can really figure out which parts can be easily outsourced, and the cost of it in the end, I think, is lower than getting an extra person, because again, I mean, Renat's team, they're doing it at scale, so
in most cases we don't have to like spend an hour or 2 just trying to understand or research the problem. If you are dealing with working with 5 customers, when we have, most probably we have had the same problem somewhere else, and we can deal with it already on spot. Also, if it's something new and we have to reach out to the LMS platform support, we know what kind of information they need, We know that we need screenshots, we need timestamps, and we need this technical language, so they understand and they answer us directly with the client involved.
So which also
again, we are also nicer than, than the support team of your LMS
we definitely are.
I know, and this is also what we do on BranchTrack team, where oftentimes we have a customer who have a learning platform, and BranchTrack produces content. So sometimes there is could be an incompatibility, or could be just a request for something to work a specific way and so on. And rather than going and back and forth through the client, right? Here we've sent you the specification, please send it to your vendor, and then the vendor asks a question to them, and they come to us asking this question. Especially if you are in different time zones, like between Europe and United States, it all starts taking days very, very quickly. We always say, just put us in touch with them directly, and we'll deal with it. And I think that kind of just it's not even outsourcing, it's just skipping this little broken phone link brings enormous value as well.
Right. And yeah, talking about vendors and platforms, I think it's worth mentioning that if you are kind of thinking about the partner who could be your outsourcing partner, then our experience has been that with some of the platforms where we provide those services, these are the same platforms that we distribute. So for our team, it's just, we already work with that technology for years, so we can of course do it like that. We can start tomorrow. But with some of the platforms we're working that we do not distribute, that we had to be onboarded, could you tell about this onboarding and that part?
For the platforms we don't distribute. Well, client has to be ready that there is training involved. If it's not the platform we have seen. That being said, all platforms in essence have the similar basic functionalities. So if you have worked in 3 of them, then the 4th one we will understand it much faster and quicker. And but it's still time. One is the technical side of the platform, and then there's this client setup. What did they do when they set up the platform? How is the catalog set up, the user groups, and how do they do enrollments? Do they do user groups or, small specific steps? It doesn't have to be ready all at once. Client just needs to invest his time in building relationship with us. And that means, okay, let's have this initial training, I don't know, for 2 or 3 days where they give this basic bulk of information. And then let's set up at first bi-weekly calls where we ask the questions. We won't bombard them with emails each day. We will just have those calls on Tuesdays, Thursdays in the mornings where we have this list of questions and we ask them. And next time we won't have those questions and we know how to deal with the situation.
Yeah. And of course, I guess also the let's call it the cultural and internal side and internal processes. We just have to, or your team has to better understand, right? How are you operating? What you expect? How are things done, right? And so on. And a lot of things are being then templated, especially with the mailbox replies or things like that. I mean, very often we just figure out how to make this process even better.
Yeah, definitely.
And more streamlined.
Yeah, we structurize things, and at first we structurize things for ourselves, and then we kind of mention it to client, and then we end up sharing the data with them, and they have new templates.
Yeah, so that's a big win as well.
All right, now we've been on it for half an hour, and there's one item I think in our promise list that we haven't mentioned. It's about costs. In a very, very practical terms, if I'm a corporate customer and I'm thinking, okay, what can I save, or how much exactly can I save, because I have to build a case for my management. what do I look at? How do I calculate that? And then what can it cost to me? Like how do I imagine it? Of course, the cost part is probably easiest if you just come to your provider and try to explain which parts you'd like to outsource. But in monetary terms, how do I start building a case for the management outside of just calling up INTEA and sitting down?
Yeah, no, of course. I think that first of all, what is needed is really to figure out, okay, the amount of work or the work we would like to outsource, that scope, the initial scope. So how much time does it take for us internally, just in hours, Usually you can estimate it more or less. I mean, if it's something going on all the time, so you can figure out that this and that learning and development person spends on average 2 hours dealing with the mailbox. Remember, we had those conversations. Let's take mailbox example, right? So you kind of estimate that. I can say for a fact, for an outsourcing partner, that should take less. Because it's the scalability, it's the competence, it's the previous knowledge and so on. So somewhere between, I would say, 30-50% saving on time. But most importantly, even if the task is as such that you are very good at that task, we or any other outsourcing partner cannot do that faster in terms of hours spent, then probably the service level agreement, and the reaction time and how fast you can do that, not in terms of hours but of deadline, that improvement also has to be taken into account. You cannot measure that in terms of money, but perhaps it can be tied to some other business goals, learning goals, something that internally that's important. That usually we have a backlog. We do those things fast, but we just have a very long backlog, and then getting all the other support and help in the company, it means that if somebody comes to us and says we have to enroll the course, we might be able to enroll it in 2-3 weeks because we cannot do that earlier. With an outsourcing partner, you would have a service level agreement, and probably the reaction time, and setup time has to be faster. So that thing, measuring this part, it's a benefit that, costs different to different companies. If you are a telecommunication company, you have to, launch those courses really fast because you're reacting to competition, then every day counts. But if you are maybe, a government agency that works in quarters or half a year, you have big plans, then probably it's not that important, right? But I would say that just calculate the amount of time, add on top of that, I guess, the amount of frustration people get internally by doing those tasks, because usually those are not tasks they like, A usual profile of an L&D person is not a person who comes from system administration. It's probably a learning person, psychologist, teacher, HR, something like that, right? So that's also important. And then, then you can just, it's a very easy thing. How we usually do that, correct me if I'm wrong, Renata, that we figure out with the customer how many hours a day are these, times working days in that month, times hourly something rates, and this is the cost, and then you can measure it against the salary and all the overheads the person has.
Quick question in terms of billing. How does billing typically work? Probably we will not go into specific agreements with specific clients, right? But my kind of immediate idea is that we charge for hours that we've spent. So at the end of the month, you get a bill saying that Renata spent 12 hours doing this boring stuff, and Christina spent 40 hours doing this boring stuff, and 52 times agreed rate is what you owe us. Or are there other ways of doing that?
I think there are two ways of doing that. One is if you know that you will need us 4 hours per day or 8 hours per day or 10 hours per day, generally we can pre-book your time, and that's time reserved for you. If you come to us, then it's
we're
just
always
there. We're always there. And then there are those cases on demand support, which you kind of described, that are you just get the hours report with with the actual hours spent and times the money.
And the difference is, I think, and I think it's a fact that if you pre-book that time, that's usually much cheaper than on-demand support.
Sure, and faster.
And faster, because you get it faster and you get it cheaper because the resources there for you from a partner's point of view, from the vendor's point of view, in this case, Renate's team, for example, they know that you will be coming, you know. And then, but then again, the flip side of this, if you have pre-booked that time, you have to be using it. So there more analysis is needed, more more kind of integration with your company is needed, standardization of processes, predictions, forecastings. So and then you can get it cheaper. So actually, the more structure is there, the clearer it is what kind of tasks have to be performed. The easier it's estimated, it's 2, 4, 8 or 16 hours a day, the cheaper it gets.
Yeah, and also there are the cases where they come, hey, we have this problem, what's the estimate? And then we provide the estimate, it gets approved, and then we pre-book that time, I don't know, 2 weeks or a week in advance.
Yeah, it's never like, you know, you get a bill in the end and, oh, it did take 50 hours. No, it's a very transparent process. Yeah, it's just, again, the type of company you are, and I think also the amount of learning you have. You know, if it's not a lot, then probably this on-demand thing makes more sense. If you're an established big corporation with very standardized process, everything clear, then of course, pre-booked, things work better.
All right, to round this up, quick fire. So let's say you're a corporate customer, or you're a corporation, and you're spending half an hour in an interview with your potential future outsourcing provider, you know, who will do all those wonderful savings that we've talked about, and will outsource your headache to people who are better at tolerating or escaping this, and so on. So what is one thing that you have to kind of bring out of this meeting, so that when you hang up the Zoom call, you know that these are the guys, or no, these aren't the guys I want to work with?
I would say that, at least from my perspective, when I'm thinking about companies that we work with where we outsource, right, I would ask to talk and to explain how does the team work and who are the team members and how often they change. Because with some of the, you know, support function, outsourcing functions, you see that this is, you know, a machine where people are changing every day, and you will not get that benefit of working with a competent personnel that can really work, kind of can go deeper than you can work faster than you can, and so on, right?
And it's not like all in one person, the LMS person, design person, ID person. No, you have to understand that we also ask other departments help. So it's not that our LMS person knows design. No, we just go to design department and book them time. So yeah, just don't have those all in one persons. It's not really great.
Yeah, it's not the case. And then those who are really the LTC or the support people, however they're called, even up to CVs. I mean, we've been when we've been onboarded to some of the companies, actually we've been asked CVs. We've been asked to the client asked us to show all of the people. All of the people had to come to that call, and they were invited. This is Renate, this is Christine, 5 years experience, 3 years experience. They would show, you know, up to up to a level where we would be asked, do they really speak English, you know, because some probably had very bad outsourcing experience to places where English is not that common. So yeah, I would say that go for people, ask to show you people, talk
and
to them.
Also, does this company has a SLA, like this process, this simple process? So service level agreement, how fast do we have to reply to you?
Do you measure it?
Yeah.
What is your measurement right now? You know, client satisfaction, all those things. Because if it's otherwise it will mean that it is not a professionalized service. It means that there are just a bunch of guys who, try to do something and learn on the go.
All right. So from my side, I want to just circle back to the fact that if you've spent half an hour on a Zoom call with a potential outsourcing provider, you have to get out of that call with a feeling that these guys are nicer than your own IT support. If they are, chances are you will enjoy this cooperation. If you feel that they ask more questions than your own IT support, then probably you will not enjoy this. I guess on this note, we will end this breakfast. Join us for the next session, which is in a week or two, and stay tuned for updates on social media and invite emails and so on.
I think it's next Friday.
Yeah,
or
our
Friday after that.
Yeah.
one of those. All right, excellent, and thank you so much, Renata, for being our first and wonderful guest on this show.